Well, my hometown is Carthage, Missouri, and it's a very old town. It was settled somewhere between 1820 and 1840. It had a rich and bloody and unpleasant history during the Civil War, and boom years after the Civil War.
It's quiet, it's small, it's a great place to raise children because of its detachment from the big city influences.
We have 6 kids. It's a yours, mine, and ours family.
And they all are very unique. And right now we have 8 grandchildren.
My wife reminded me my oldest daughter's 35. I just about fell over. So I basically grew up in Carthage, and I had just a wonderful childhood. I hear these stories about Leave It to Beaver's, not real life, and I always thought Leave It to Beaver, he had it kind of rough compared to me. My parents were very supportive of anything creative art-wise that I did. I can remember the first drawing I did, and they really made a big deal about it. It's probably 3 years old.
He was born to be an artist. He was born with an inner talent. It wasn't developed. He did go out and play football and stuff like that, but more so he was a late talker because I think his mind was always going on creating.
We had some Frederick Remington prints around the house, and some Western art. My dad particularly liked Western art and Impressionism. As nice as my home was, you go out in the cruel world, and you could really be in the dumps in that adolescent age. And I can remember coming home and going right up to my room and painting. And in hindsight, I look back on it, I think, that was my solace for bad days. I mean, I drew a lot. I always took art classes. I was always trying different things, not always strictly artwork, kind of crafty kind of stuff. But I was a prolific drawer even in high school. People ask me where I went to school, and I went to business school actually at night. Where'd you learn to paint? And I tell them self-taught. And I'm always kind of cautious about that. I'm proud that I'm self-taught, but it sounds like I'm a country bumpkin, and I may be a country bumpkin, but that self-teaching process is really just a recognition that you want to be at this level. And if you know you want to be at that level and you're starting here, every step you just work, you work towards that. And it's not isolated to art. I think that's true in any field.
I entered a painting into an art show in a little town down in Arkansas called Eureka Springs. And I didn't tell him. I just took it off the wall, took it down there one day, and he never missed it, never told him. It won Best of Show.
We'd be at a general art show, not even any Western shows, anything like that. Just people out for a fair. They get ice cream, walk past the art booths. But there would be a lot of people go through there. I would paint a whole variety of subject matters. That's great training anyway. Just paint everything. I'd paint bird dogs, I'd paint nudes, I'd paint cowboys, I'd paint still lifes. It's a process of me communicating with the viewer.
Andy is probably the hardest working artist I've ever known, in that he paints 7 days a week, 10 hours a day.
People often say, because you're an artist, they say, oh, do you wait for inspiration? I said, fella, I got a mortgage. That's an inspiration. I go up and work. And so, I come up and clock in. I did learn discipline from a job, and I found days I think I feel like painting, I don't do well. Some days I'm maybe even have a touch of the flu and don't feel like painting. It might paint wonderfully.
As you can see from the whale hunt, the city street scene, the winter snow ride, he's so versatile. Andy can paint anything and make it a great painting.
He's been in the Scottsdale Art Auction and the Coeur d'Alene, and they're exhilarating to go to. You're in a crowd of people, especially the Coeur d'Alene, that are buying mostly art by deceased artists. And here's your painting.
I would say, if I had to, describe my work as, a trademark of my work or something unique, it'd be mostly, I try to paint things that you really couldn't get a good photograph, because that's what we're not seeing. We see if a guy just, posing on a horse or any other stagnant pose, there's a lot of photographs you can take of that, but have a guy galloping on a staggering horse or a winded horse and losing his balance. You know, you're just never going to get a photograph of that. So I am conscious that I try to paint things that people don't see a lot. And I personally like figures and action, so I do a lot of figures and action. I like the expression, the body language of a horse and a man and a woman. You know, the body language. Since I'm not a very good verbal communicator, I guess I read body language much more than verbal language. So I love telling the story through the body language. I tell people, you know, what people might call composition. You know, I think of as choreography because I'm usually working with figures, you know, and each figure, you know, has to fit with the storyline. And so this is kind of a fun process of putting it together. I really still have an ambition to create the artwork I like the most. I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but to the nth degree.